Hello and welcome back to another episode, Chatting with Slava the Jordanian. I am your host, STJ. It is storytelling time on this Mindset Mastery Moment. And today, we are having a very special gift to you and humanity. You get to hear her story from a very special human being. Her name is Gisselle, and you might be asking yourself, why Gisselle? But I am not gonna go ahead and offer my explanation because it's not my story to tell, and it's not my mindset moment. It's Gisselle mindset moment today. So I'm gonna turn to Gisselle to tell you guys and share with you her tale of living in the United States. She's from the Dominican Republic originally, and let you be the judge of what Gisselle is all about. So let's dive into it, shall we? Good morning, Gisselle.
Good morning, Dr. Slava. Thank you for having me on your podcast. I feel so honored as a listener and actually as a employee of yours. I've been working for Greenwood Dental Partners for almost a year now. Can't believe it, almost in June. And I am a mother of one. My son, Rodell Cruz, I love him so much. He is 9 years old. And prior to working in the dental field, I was a phlebotomist for almost 5 years. And I took a break on that when COVID happened because it was very stressful on my body working for Exeter Hospital. And yeah, now I work for Greenwood Dental Partners, and I'm so honored to be here.
Oh, thank you. Yes, you are one of my biggest fans. We talk about the podcast all the time. Every time they upload, it gets uploaded every single Wednesday, and you're like the first person. It's like I started listening to it, and it was awesome. So you're my critic too,
I love it.
which been so helpful, very inspiring to me. So let's go back a little bit about the story of immigration into the United States. And as I told you before, feel free to share as much as you want, as little as you want. There's no judgment on that. So, were you born in the United States?
Yes, I was born in Brooklyn, New York.
Nice. So, and both are your parents are from the Dominican Republic, or it's just your mom?
Both parents. My
Both
dad
parents.
is from a city called Bonao in the Dominican Republic, and my mother is from a city called Tenares in the Dominican Republic. They're literally east and west of the country. So I'm honored to have both sides of the country in my blood.
Yeah, no, Dominican is on my bucket list. I hear about Punta Cana and their beaches. I haven't made it there yet. I think I only been to Turks and Caicos as far as the Caribbean, but hopefully I'll get there one day. So how old was your mom when she came here? Did she come here married, or did she get married in the United States?
So my mom's story is a little sad. I'll try to say it in a way that it's quick but understandable and relatable. My mother was given away as a child, as a newborn almost. I think she only had like 6 months. Her mother, the one who gave birth to her, her birth mother, worked at a hair salon where it was predominantly high class Dominicans. So they would go to this salon, get their hair done, and she was in poverty. So she worked as a hair washer. And one day, the person I called my grandmother walked in and saw that my mom's birth mother had her in a carriage. And she was like, why do you bring her to work? She's like, because I don't have anybody to watch her. I actually want to give her away, is what she told my grandmother. And she ended up giving her to my grandmother, just giving it to her, like just giving my mom away, like if she was like a trophy or like just a gift. I don't know. But that was her experience. She then lived with my grandmother and grew up with my grandmother, and she ended up bringing her with a visa to New York. And once she became, I think that she was like 16 when she came to the United States. So once she became 18, my grandmother had to find somebody to marry her. And she forced married into this relationship with this man. I don't know him. My mom doesn't really talk about it, but she does tell her story. And, she says that she did not like this man. She had to portray that she was in a relationship with this man to then get her papers and become a U.S. citizen, which she did after 10 long years of trying to do this. And yeah, she ended up meeting my dad in Manhattan. And that's how I became along. And two other siblings. So I have an older sister and an older brother.
Oh, okay. So you are the baby of 3?
I am the baby of 3, yes.
Okay. So when you say your grandmother, so your grandmother gave away your mother because she couldn't keep her. So is that your great grandmother or your grandmother from the other side?
So my grandmother is who I call my grandmother. It is the one that raised my mother. Her birth mother. I don't really consider her my grandmother. She never really looked for us. She knew where we were, but she never really connected with us. And that, I mean, it stems from not being connected with her own daughter. So I guess I can't blame her for it.
Yeah. Well, the way I look at it, thank God your grandmother walked in and saw your mom in a basket,
Right.
If she didn't, where would your mom be?
Right.
You would not exist probably.
Yeah.
It's all about unlimited mindset. So I believe things happen for a reason.
Absolutely.
And I believe that reason is if your grandmother did not see your mom in that dire situation and took her in, it won't be Gisselle, and I will never got to know you or met you. And we won't be here talking about it too.
Right. And sharing her story, because I feel like that was something that was done a lot. I hear other stories and, similar situations where parents didn't grow up with their birth parents. It was someone else raising them, like an aunt or, it's common in our culture. I don't know why, but maybe in those times. It was hard.
Well, part of it, I think it's the lack of resources too, lack of education, unfortunate circumstances. When you have countries like even, Jordan, I know it's a monarchy and I'm not criticizing any government, anything like that. But I mean, there are poor people in Jordan, and they are just scraping away the minimum in order to get out and have a better opportunity and better life.
Right.
Seeking education, seeking employment, seeking civil liberties, more human rights, and they feel that they're trapped and they need to get out. So, I hate to say it, but unfortunately, sometimes unfavorable events or unwelcoming events can cause someone to just displace themselves. And that's what we talk about a lot on these episodes, displacing by default or displacing by design. Right. So your mom got displaced by default, unfortunately, but I don't think the story, and I heard this story from you a couple of times. I don't think this story, honestly, is about your mom. I think the story is about you. Mm-hmm. Again, if your mom did not end up leaving DR, you might not existed. No. And here we are telling your story to inspire other female immigrants, whether they are already here in the United States or they're thinking about leaving their home world, going into a new world, to say, things happen and it is okay for it to happen because there's a reason behind everything. Right. And I talk to you guys a lot about this. Nothing in this universe it happens without a reason. There is always something. There is no such thing coincidence, because it's not like I'm a big fan of Sigmund Freud. Freud always said that there is no such thing as coincidences. And I believe that. When I was younger, I did not believe it, because I don't want it to take accountability of the certain things that were happening to me. So I had to create this belief system that, of course, it's a coincidence. Of course, somebody is at me. Of course, somebody caused this ripple effect that I am in this situation. But no, there's no coincidence. There's a reason why things are happening, whether we, initiate that, like I said, vibrations, we talk about those energies, or the universe is sending us those events and those circumstances for us to learn from. And like I said, and here we are talking about your story. So they got married in New York. They lived in Brooklyn. So you were born in Brooklyn, you and your siblings.
Yes, so I was born in Brooklyn. My older sister was born in Manhattan. So that's where my mom and dad met. My mom divorced the man who she married to get her papers. She lived single for a while. She worked in factories in New York, and that's kind of how she met my dad, because she met a friend who brought her to a house party and ended up meeting my dad that way. And my older sister was born in Manhattan, and me and my brother were born in Brooklyn, New York. Yeah.
Okay. And how long did you live in Brooklyn for before you came to to Massachusetts?
Before we moved to Massachusetts, I think I was living there till I was like 6 years old. And then my sister ended up getting pregnant at 16, visiting my aunt in Massachusetts with the father of her child, which is my nephew, Brian. And my mom didn't want to leave her alone in a area where she wasn't familiar with no family other than my aunt. So she thought it was a good idea to move from New York and be with her here, which I felt like it kind of, ruined my life, I felt at the time. And I think about it sometimes, and I'm like, what if we would have stayed in New York? What would have my life become? But like you say, Dr. Slava, everything happens for a reason. So there's a reason why I'm here.
Yeah, sweet Rodell. Oh, he's so scrumptious. He's so cute. He is such a good boy.
Thank you.
I think he has your aura. He has your energy.
Yeah.
And it really gives you goosebumps when I talk to him. Just those beautiful eyes, and he just so, I don't know. He has such a good bedside manners. He just talks to you and he listens. Yeah, he's a little boy, but considering you did really, really good. You must be so proud.
I try to make him
takes a village.
aware.
Takes a village, Gisselle.
Yeah. It does take a village for sure.
So let's go back to Brooklyn. As your mom and your dad, the immigrants from the Dominican, how was it growing up in Brooklyn? I went to school in NYU, and I've been to Brooklyn once. I did a pedo residency in Lutheran Hospital in Brooklyn, and I did not get to see Brooklyn, but I hear so much about it. But I went, from a subway underground into the hospital back home.
Right.
But how was growing up in Brooklyn?
Growing up in Brooklyn was amazing. Like, all of our family from both sides, my dad and my mom, it was just house parties every weekend. We would hang out like in front of a bodega, and my dad would be playing dominoes with, other family members, family friends. And it was just, I remember just my childhood being fun. Like, there was no iPads. There was no cell phones, where it was just kids interacting and just literally enjoying life.
Yeah.
But it was also hard for us, because during those times, it was like 2000, that whole millennial thing happened.
The Y2K.
Y2K. It was just
it was
crazy
huge
times.
in New York. Yeah.
Yeah, so For the most part, I just remember fun, friends and family. And when we moved over here, that kind of changed. It drifted, everything kind of became a little sad, if to say. It wasn't fun anymore.
Why is that? Is it because you lost that tribal connection in Brooklyn?
Exactly. Yeah, so when we moved over here, my mom and my dad split because he didn't think it was a good idea for my mom to move over here. So I remember that being tragic. That was like something that very much stuck with me even till this day. And I'm 33. I'm 34. I'm going to be 35 this year. Even till this day, I'm just like, wow, like that really shook our family dynamic. So, you know, it was just different. I didn't have as much family and friends around. It was just my aunt. She didn't have any kids at the time. I was having to like make new friends. I was going into, so if I was 6, I was going into first grade, second grade. So that was hard. That was very hard. Yeah, as a child to have to
They do.
experience a new culture,
Environment, yeah. They say
environment.
that age is very critical because I
Yes.
think during that age that you just started first grade and then you are moving away from that circle of trust. When we're kids, we have mom, dad, caregiver, grandma, neighbor, kids. So we have a very tight circle of trust. That's how we, trust our environment. Remember, we talk about consistent experiences. So that's why
Right.
we have to constantly be communicating with the same people over and over again to create that consistent experience so we can build trust in the world. And
Right.
they do say first grade is a really huge challenge for children because that's when you go into the public scene and you start meeting so many different kids and so many different strangers, and that's when you pick up your social skills.
Right.
And from birth until first grade, you have created this belief system that's very rigid that, that's mom, dad, caregiver, like I said, family, neighborhood kids, cousins, those are the people you trust. But then when you are in, like I said, the social setting, the public setting, you have to figure out, it's like, okay, that's not what I am used to. That's not what I used to see. That's not what I used to hear. And then you tap into your belief system to trying to adopt different ways by adapting to the new experience. But add on top of that a move, pulling yourself out and displacing yourself from your home world into a new world. You're just going from New York to Mass. It's not that it's not that far, but it's amazing how New England culture is very different than the Northeast,
At the
which is New York,
time when we
New
first
Jersey.
left,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
at the time there was predominantly white people in Lawrence. I know it's hard, it's shocking because how Lawrence is now is
I'm surprised.
it's
That's
just
Lawrence,
full.
Mass.
Lawrence, yeah,
No.
there was a lot of like there was mix. Obviously, there was Hispanics too, but there was I feel like there was a lot of white American kids as well, and but now it's just like straight Hispanics. Like there's the school in Lawrence is what is the school called? The Gilmet. That you barely see any white American kids there. It's mostly Hispanics. And that wasn't something you saw when you came to Lawrence. Me trying to get used to just not seeing buildings and a lot of people in the street as I'm walking. I had to walk like almost a mile to go to a store when it was like right in front of my building before.
Yeah.
That was something I had to get used to as well. So it changed me a lot moving to Massachusetts.
Yeah. In what way, Giselle? In what way did you change?
I
I mean, you're
changed.
really young to actually realize that this is not home. And
Right.
when did you realize it was changing you too? So how did it change you? And when did you realize it was
I feel
changing
like
you?
it changed me when I realized that it was hard for me to make friends. It was hard for me to make friends in school is when I realized it. I'm like, okay, I kind of don't fit in. Like people would like, I don't know, be jealous of me because of the way I dressed. I had the nice sneakers because that's like a culture in New York. People,
Yes.
Sneakers is like a thing. So like I had different pair of sneakers each and every day. And, kids would be like, oh, look, you have a new pair of sneakers again. Like it was weird. Like, I don't know. I couldn't believe I was getting that type of like negativity just because of the way I
Yeah.
dressed. So that's something that I experienced as a kid,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how did that change you?
It changed me because I knew that I couldn't be who I was. It changed me because I knew I had to try to fit in. And that's something that I didn't want. I just wanted to be myself. And I had to change that about myself.
Which is, you're not alone. I've been, like, I do a lot of research about, social mindset and social psychology behind the immigrant mindset. So there's immigration, which when you literally pull your roots from one side of the globe to a completely different, like to go from east to west. To go from north to south, you go from North America to South America.
Right.
You go from, the United States, the west coast of the United States, into the South Pacific. Can be American going into the Philippines. That's
Right.
immigration. But you migrated. Basically, you're still in the same zone, United States, the same,
Right.
laws and culture. For the most part. So you migrated from New York into Lawrence, but it's amazing how different it is. And you, as a child with no life experience, have actually, felt it. And
Yeah.
sociologists will tell you that the toughest process is the simulation. So there's acculturation and there's simulation. Acculturation is when you adapt to the new culture, and that's when you, as a child, try to do that or realize, like, this is different. This is not what I'm used to. It smells different. It looks different. It feels different. I'm
The
hearing
smell.
different things. Yeah,
The
for
smell
culture.
was something very different for me too. Like, obviously it was like fresh air, because New York is like super polluted, but it was just like, smelling skunk, like, cause it was like we're like,
You don't smell that in the city.
you
No,
don't really
don't.
smell that like that. I mean, don't get me wrong. Obviously there's skunks in New York, but like,
Yeah.
that's not something that you smell because you're inside a building. You're playing in a hallway. You're not
Yeah.
outside like
Yeah.
how I had to be here. So
Yeah.
that was like distinct for me. Yeah, for sure.
Wow. That's fascinating. It's like you're smelling it, you're hearing it, you're seeing it, you're being it.
Yeah.
It is fascinating. And you are now, a wife and a mother, and you still, relive that. And it seems like it was a huge part of the process if you're, acculturation into the new society.
Right.
So how did you manage? How did you, where did you pull strength? Where did you pull tenacity? Where did you pull courage in order to survive that process of, acculturation into, like I said, the new society?
I feel like one, I had no choice because of my age. But I also had my older brother, which he's the middle child between me and my sister. So I just kind of followed his lead and saw how he was just trying to make it better for us, He kind of took me under his wing and would always like take me places with him and just to make me feel like, this is home now. Like, so he would just try to make me interact with like his friends' younger siblings, and it was definitely my older brother for sure. He made me just realize that, okay, this is our new home now, Gisselle. So we gotta try to make it the best.
Is he still Lawrence?
He actually lives in Haverhill. He has a beautiful family. He's married and has a 16-year-old daughter, Adriana.
Aw. So you're an auntie too.
I am an auntie.
Yeah, see?
Yes,
Pile it up.
I
You have so many titles.
I've been an auntie since I was 12 years old, actually, because of my nephew, my sister.
Your older sister, absolutely. Isn't it wonderful? I love being an auntie. It's just, It's a whole different way of looking at the world. You know, they're not
Right.
really your kids, but still you are. Because now I'm the matriarch of my family.
Right.
Fortunately, when my mom have, you know, with her dementia,
Yes.
so I get a lot of the what should we do? So and so needs help. You know, so it's fun, but I'm learning through the process. But you must be the expert because if you've been an auntie since you were 12.
It's very, it kind of prepared me for my own, in a sense, you know?
True.
And then the fact that he's a boy too. So it was kind of easy. You know, I've always helped my sister with my nephew. So it definitely prepared me for motherhood.
All right, let's tap into education. So,
Yes.
how far did you go with your education?
So I did some college. I never got an associate's or a bachelor's, but I did get nationally certified as a phlebotomist. So I can work anywhere in the United States as a phlebotomist. And I'm really proud of that because prior to becoming a phlebotomist, I was a caregiver. I ran a whole classroom of developmental disabled adults. So I prepared them for just everyday activity in life, trying to get them a job, teaching them hygiene. That I am very honored to do that as a human being because these people put perspective in my life as to what I thought the struggle of my life is nothing compared to what these individuals have to deal with every day of their life, not even wanting to. You know, it's almost like they have to because it's part of their life. So that was a big accomplishment for my life as well. Yeah.
Wow, Giselle, just when I thought you're so special, oh my God. It takes a special person to do that job. I mean,
Absolutely.
how old were you when you got
When I
this? I had no
started
idea.
that, I was 18. When I
Oh my
got straight out of
God.
high school, I
And
started
how
doing
did you
that.
land that job?
Well, when I turned 18, so I moved to Massachusetts as a child, but as soon as I hit 18, I went back to New York City. I
I
went
did
back
not
to New
know
York.
that.
Yeah,
Look
I
at
went
you,
back to New
Wildwood.
York.
Okay.
I did some college with Monroe College, Monroe Community College in the Bronx.
Yep.
And I didn't really, because I was studying to be a medical coding, but it was just, it's not what I really wanted to do. So I kind of like drifted away from college a little bit and landed a job in being a home health aide, PCA. And I did that for almost 6 years in New York. I lived on my own. I had my own apartment. But then I got homesick and I didn't want to I didn't want to be apart from my mom and my brother and my sister. So I ended up moving back to Massachusetts and, I did some college in Northern Essex. I know this is crazy. And then I went back to New York.
No, you didn't.
I did. I
You're
did.
addicted.
I did. And then I worked as a supervisor for TJ Maxx in one of the biggest TJ Maxx in New York City, which is next to the US Open on First
I know
Avenue.
exactly what that is.
Yeah, next to the Food Emporium. And I
Yep.
love that job. I love that job. I got discounts. I got all the good stuff.
All the new sneakers you want.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And then I ended up moving back to Massachusetts, and that's when I met the father of my child, and it was a whirlwind for sure. And then
So, no, sorry, go ahead. Finish up.
no, that's when I moved back. That's when I started working with people with developmental disabilities.
Oh, okay. So it sounds like that was your first job in Massachusetts.
Yes and no, because when I was a teenager, like in high school, I worked for Family Dollar and Papa Gino's. So those were my first two jobs.
You got the best jobs, like the food, the clothes. That's awesome. Good for you.
Yeah,
See, you're
yeah.
very resourceful. And that's,
I
I think, it's part of the immigrant mindset, like it's unlimited beliefs that, I'm not, this is not beneath me. I want the experience, but also I get the discounts and I get to just help me start up my life and feel good about myself. That's typical and classic, which is amazing. So how many years were you the aide for the special needs adult, and how old were they?
So I did it for about 4 years, and it ranged from 18 to 70.
Oh wow!
And it was a day program. It was
okay. They don't live there.
No, they don't live there. They would just come for the day. So they will leave. They'll come at 8 in the morning and leave by like 4. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
And how was the training? How was the training process? Like, did they go over like orientation, what to do and don't? Because some of those special needs, especially with autism, and they can get, they have episodes.
Yes. So because of my background as a home health aide, I had already had experience with that, because I also worked in dementia units in like assisted livings.
Oh my God.
So yeah, I did I've had many jobs now that I think of it, but I feel like there's a lot of experience there,
Yes, absolutely.
So, that helped me with getting that job. So yes, I did do orientation. I did have to take some like courses with that, because I was kind of like a teacher, sort of say. So I did have to, oblige by their like standards and policies. So yeah, I did.
And what can you think of an incident that really tested your mindset at that facility? Do you remember having a very, like, not traumatic, but an incident that was just, oh my God, that was an eye-opening? The interaction with the special needs clients there, did anybody approach you? Where you felt like this is not for me, or did you feel like this is absolutely for me? Is there a highlighted event that happened at that facility that made you who you are, or taught you, or this is exactly what I'm going to do with my life? Gave you some kind of a belief principle in your belief system right now? Because, I worked with children. I was in a daycare in a Montessori school in California before I started dental school. Let me give you an example. Maybe you'll identify with it. And I was in the toddler room and the infants room. Okay. And it's not the children that I was taking care of, because I babysat all my life. I'm one of 5, and I had cousins. And it was, what I learned is how to deal with the parents, because that daycare was in the heart of the UC Davis campus where Ehab got his PhD. And all the clients are either graduate students from all over the world, or they are UC Davis employees. So when the moms used to drop off, especially the infants, they're 3 months old, their hormones are raging, some of them postpartum depression, they're crying, I'm crying with them, the baby's fine. Wow. So from that experience, I learned how to manage the parents' expectations, and I spent more time, just comforting the mom that just had a baby 3 months ago. And I had another child that I will never forget his name, David. He's a toddler, and he's the youngest of 3 boys, and the 2 boys were across the hall from us in, I think, preschool or kindergarten. And he had such just a very traumatic, I think, separation anxiety, and he would not. His dad was a CEO of a company in Sacramento. So the dad, I never met the mom. The dad used to drop the boys, but David was so attached to his big brothers that he'll like squeeze them and hold them real tight. It's like, okay, David, it's time to go. And he'd just cry and cry. And he was glued to my hip. He will not, he was my shadow. He will not
Wow.
sleep. He will not eat. And he knew the time that his brothers are going to be out from school across the hall. He just waits for the moment. His whole day
Wow.
was about that, when I'm going to see my brothers again, when I'm going to see my brothers again. So he just, it was, and I learned a lot about separation anxiety because I saw that 2.5-year-old that, you know, he is anxious.
Right.
He was antisocial, except with his brothers. And sometime when I knew that his brother's having a break or having a snack, I'll go across the hall at the window at the door and have him wave at them. And sometimes they'll open the door and give him a hug and stuff. But the older boys, they were not affected by it. He was the youngest. He was very, very sweet, but by the time his dad picked him up, he was cranky. He was tired because he did not eat. He did not sleep. He did not nap. He didn't want to play with anybody. But that's the type of experiences that I'm asking about. Was there one client at that program that really influenced or impacted your belief system?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There was this one, client, because we used to call them clients. She lived in a group home, and this group home did not take care of her at all. So there would be days that she would come in with her Depend completely soaked, and, you know, still have like leftover food from the night before on her shirt. And these were things that I just, in my mind, I'm like, how can a human being let another human being look this way, to the point where this person does not have control as to what they're looking like, you know? So that actually affected me, you know, and changed my belief on how I believe people would want others to be helpful towards them, you know? That's what I captivated from that. And it's like almost like if she waited to be in my presence to then smile. She would give them a hard time to get them into get her into the van. She would give them a hard time her getting out of the van. But as soon as she walked into my classroom, it was like she knew it was going to be better, because she knew I was going to help her. I was going to change her shirt. I was going to change her Depend just to make her feel clean again. Just knew, and I appreciated that. That changed my belief on, you know, how others should be treated. And I know that if you don't want that to happen to you, why would you do that to somebody else? And that changed a lot in my mindset.
That is so true. And I never birthed any children, but I looked after a lot of kids.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I don't understand, Gisselle. I've been getting into these thoughts lately. I don't get, and I get so angry about humanity.
Right.
Where do you even get the audacity to dehumanize anybody?
I know.
Who do you think you are? And that's the problem with humans. And we talk a lot about this, is we got this superiority complex that, you know, because I have a good job and, you know, I have a good life and I'm blessed and grateful for everything that happens to me. And then you mistreat people. Do you know what I'm saying? That, but we talk about karma though, you know, so, and I agree with you. And I've been in the public service for 26 years, and you have encountered a lot of the patients that really, you know, very sweet, and they respect our time and value everything, the services that we render. And we have other, you know, patients that come across very, you know, sharp, the ice, you know, you can't melt them down. They're very sharp. They're very abrasive. They're very rough around the edges, and they just take it out on you. But add to that, I can't imagine, and I don't get that. I can't imagine taking care or caring after special needs, you know, caring after a disabled elderly, or taking care after, you know, an Alzheimer's or dementia patient. I worry about all that. See, in my culture back home, you don't send your elderly to a nursing home. Because it's a whole the tribal connection belief system, right? They gave me life, and I owe it to them to give them the care that they need, even if you have to. And I'm sure I heard in Brazil is the same way, Colombia, and all these communities that is still very much a traditional mindset or expectation from society that you take care of your elderly because they took care of you. Now it's time for you to take care of them, even if that means you taking turns in the family and one goes 1 week and one goes the other week. I talked to Ehab's cousins in Egypt, and the elderly in their family, they are in their homes, in their apartments, and the family comes to them because it's not fair for us to pull them out of their environment, expect them at the end of their life, adapt to a new environment, new culture, where we have the resources and the ability to take care of them. But unfortunately in the Western world it's a little bit better. It's all about, everything's monetized, they want to sell a nursing home service, so they create a nursing home world. They want to sell, the social club for, special need adults, then they got to sell that business. And what that's, I think it is teaching some people to say that I don't want to deal with that. It is an option. It's an out. It's a choice, not a chance, right? So you choose, like, I don't want to deal with the elderly in my home, so send them out. Yes. I'm not saying that is a bad thing. Certain circumstances probably will require that. Yes. But it's it's unfortunate that you have to do.
I'm not judging anyone.
But don't mistreat them. You know what I'm saying? Like, do your job, take care of them.
Do your job. Just don't mistreat them, right? Because these people do not deserve that, right?
Yeah, nobody deserves that.
And that's just what I got from that. And it made me realize, what I have to be grateful for in life, just that changed my mindset as to, I need to be positive. Like, Dr. Slava, I always try to come into work, give that good energy. And that's how I literally portray my life. That I because of what I've seen with, with human beings at that, I just try to make sure that I always be that positivity in somebody's life. I kill them with kindness. That's all I always do. And that's my motto. I kill them with kindness because that's all I have to give.
You're very successful with that, by the way. Very successful. Like, I've seen people like, whoa, they're not, who are you? What did you do with so-and-so? I was like, oh yeah, you spoke to Gisselle. You're the pixie duster, we call it. Remember? It's a pixie duster. You throw pixie dust at everybody. That's awesome. So let's go back to why dentistry. How did you end up from being the phlebotomy to dentistry?
So with phlebotomy, it kind of burnt me out.
Why?
Working at Exeter Hospital during COVID. Then I ended up working in a clinic. And it's just like constant, just like interaction with the public. And I needed a break, right? So then I came to dentistry thinking that it'll be a little bit different, but
I was just gonna say, Gisselle.
It's not different at all. I'm still interacting with the public, but I'm not straining my back. Like, it was a lot of my back. It had a lot to do with my back and, constantly in a certain position, drawing blood. It's just, I needed a break and I wanted to do something different. And as I have all these tricks up my sleeve, I'm like, I could do dentistry. Why not? Let's try it. And, as an administrator, I love working for Greenwood Dental Partners. And I'm not just saying it because you're in front of me, Dr. Slava. Like, I've learned a lot from you, just in general, as seeing, visualizing other people and just how I can take on my day and how I can interact with other people without letting it affect me. It's just a different aspect of life is what I've experienced with your culture.
I am so, I'm so honored, and it's my pleasure teaching you guys, especially you, spending that time with you. And you do, I love I'm in love with your mindset. I love your spirit. I love your attitude about life. And you have been seasoned since first grade, I guess. You know, that was an eye opener. It sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that, you know, the move was good for you, because I think if you stayed in Brooklyn, and obviously you went back, but you ended up coming back here,
Yes.
and there's a reason for that, right?
Yeah.
And I think you had to grow up faster than you would have planned, because think about it, if you would have stayed in Brooklyn, I don't think you would have had all these different jobs and interacted with so many different people that inspired you to create the mindset and the belief system that you have now.
Absolutely.
So, right? So, you know, dentistry, yeah, we always say that 80% of our time we spend in managing patient expectations, which is it's a public service, right? We are offering a monetized service, which is we service their teeth. But it doesn't change the fact that when people want to invest in that service, they have to tap into their grid, right? Their vortex, their belief system that, you know, this is valued to me, this is not valued to me. This is worth me paying X amount of money. This is worth me being in the dental chair for 2.5 hours. This is not worthwhile. So you can apply a lot of. Now I know more than I ever known about you. You have treasures of tools that you can definitely use to, you know, to create those basically rail guard, you know, that anybody that trying to affect your or influence your energy or your attitude during the day, you have the treasure tools that you can actually deflect out of all these thoughts. Because, you know, we talk about it that our belief system is basically a thought that we've been thinking about over and over and over and over again. We start believing that thought, you know, so change your thought, change your belief system. So now you're a mom. Where do you see, or how do you see your belief system have changed? I mean, you got influenced by, you know, the different jobs that you had, but now Rodell is at the center of your world. And what is the belief system that you are trying to teach him? Now, Rodell was born here in Massachusetts, right?
Yep.
So he has, okay. And then he has his cousins here, right? So he's surrounded by families, not like you, that you had to leave. So what is it that you planning to, you know, transmit into him as a belief system? And as an immigrant, I mean, you are first generation American because you were born here. Your mom wasn't.
Right.
She's first generation immigrant American, but Rodell is a second generation Dominican American.
Right. I want to put in the belief system in him is just that he should never depend on anyone, and you should always go for what you want. Because that's kind of the belief system I put in myself, where I never gave myself limits. You know, in my culture, you know, marriage is not like a priority. Like you don't have to get married. It's not something that they really drill into your head. And, you know, they kind of just, well, my mom, she kind of just let me do what I wanted to do. You know, I kind of like feel like I should have had like a little bit more structure, but her being a single mother and just trying to do her best was like all that she could do. So I just kind of want to put in the belief in Rodell where I don't ever want him to limit himself, you know, just because of whatever reason. I always want him to keep pushing forward. And that's what I'm trying to show him. You know, he sees that I am a phlebotomist. He saw that. He sees that I do work now for a dental office, and, you know, mommy is doing good for herself. Like, I want him to see that.
And so so mastering an unlimited mindset, as long as he follows his passion, what he loves, and he'll do it the best he can. And I think he will, with your guidance
Yes.
And with you being a role model for him, I don't think that kid is going to not make it. I think he's going to make it. He's going to make it big too, because he just he has your energy, from just the minimal interaction that I had. I can see Gisselle and Rodell all the time. But let's go into the challenges. Now, you had your own social cultural challenges. Times have changed, Y2K, and now we're 25 years later. Yes. Rodell is in public school, and that you guys moved from Massachusetts, right, to New Hampshire recently, too.
Yes.
What are the challenges that you have championed as a child? Do you see that same challenges that Rodell is going through? Is it so different right now as an immigrant?
I mean, I do see it a little bit because he got used to being in our culture, being in Lawrence, because that's where we used to live, to now transitioning again into living in New Hampshire. So I do kind of see where he kind of like disconnects a little bit. Like the other day, it's funny you mentioned that. The other day, he's like, I just wish we could live back next to Tia, which is my sister, because I only lived 5 minutes away from her. Now I live 25 minutes away from her. So we would always be at her house, even if it's just me picking him up from school or from his after school program, we would go and spend some time with Tia. But now we don't really do that. So when I picked him up from school the other day or from his after school, he's like, I just wish we could be in Tia's house right now. I'm like, so that's where I see like that drift away kind of I gave him as like the same as when I moved from New York to Massachusetts. Yep. So I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing that to him. But at the same time, I feel like moving up here kind of gave us a better opportunity, so that's how I see that. I just see as what the opportunities I'm trying to give him, as he gets older.
It's you're absolutely right. That's what parents do, right? They sacrifice for a better life, better opportunity, better culture, better community, so the children can thrive. Not only survive, it's also thrive.
I'm sure my mom thought that too, moving up here. I don't really consider that as much, but I feel like maybe she thought that was going to be a good change for us. So.
Yeah, and as parents, again, I never birthed any children, but as an adult that's responsible for others. You make that decision. You don't know. You have no idea if that's going to work or not. It's an idea, and it's a belief that it should be better than this. I need more than that. So thinking about moving, migrating, immigrating, displacing yourself is going to give you better opportunity. Nobody does a lot of research when they move. No, my parents moved. They left Jordan to Saudi. No research. It's like, it's an opportunity. Let's go. Let's do it for 5 years. If it doesn't work, we can go back to Jordan. And we just ended up there for 19 years. We're all born there. And I never thought I'll leave. But that's a sacrifice we make. We have a saying in Arabic, being estranged out of your homeland or home world is difficult, and the price is high sometimes, and you gotta always is it really worth it? Is it really worth it? My kids are doing better. Maybe if I stayed, maybe what if? You constantly have that doubt and questioning your decisions over and over again. But your mom, my parents, they must have had some kind of intuition that said, no, this is what we need to do. Yeah. So I can't even imagine being responsible for that decision, especially you moved Rodell from Lawrence to New Hampshire, just like your mom moved you from Brooklyn to Lawrence. And it's funny how I have some friends that the parents never had to displace themselves. And then the children either don't displace themselves, become homebody, they stayed in the state and their hometown, or they're the extreme. They go to California. They leave New Hampshire altogether and they go to the other coast. Or they move to Europe and they work to Europe because they want to see more. They want to experience more. Right. But I don't think our parents did a whole lot of research. They just followed their intuition, and you hope for the best for your children. It is a very, very tough decision, but that's that's the mindset of an immigrant. That's what I'm trying to say is we are unlimited in our beliefs that we want something better than what we have. There must be something better out there that I want to experience and I want to encounter, because if I don't, I'm going to miss out on opportunities, for me and my children. And it's a fascinating mindset, because when you read all kind of books and you watch all kind of movies about Italian immigrants, Irish immigrants, South American immigrants, Caribbean immigrants, Arab, Middle Eastern immigrant, they all have the same story.
Yeah.
That we just picked up and went because it's horrible here.
Like
there's that mindset that creates that belief system. We're going to be fine. The rest of your family are still in Dominican, right? You do have immediate family in Dominican?
Immediate family, I'm thinking like my mom's siblings, they're all here in the United States. So is my dad's, but I do have like uncles, and great aunts and stuff like that still live in the Dominican Republic. And, to this point now, maybe in the 90s, they still wanted to come over here. But at this point and how everything in the world is, they don't care about coming back over here or even coming over here at all, because they have now the resources. The Dominican Republic is now evolving, and they have a lot more than what they used to have back in the 90s. So people just don't care as much as to coming to the United States anymore, and I guess they can experience the United States culture now in their own country. So it's just a different mindset, and it
is a different mentality, because there's the immigrants had achieved so much because there's so much opportunity, and a lot of them went back home to their home world and invested all that knowledge, invested all the experience over there. And then with the digital technology that we have, they can see and experience everything that we do. So why should we leave? It's cheaper to live there, honestly. We have the tribal connection over there. You have the tribal support. And why would I go? It's just I can live an American life, a westernized life. Same thing with Jordan. A lot of them are going back. A lot of people going back even to Egypt, opening businesses after 25 years in Kuwait, for example. There's this husband and wife. They created this empire of bakeries in Kuwait. They were there for like 25 years, and they finally packed everything, sold everything in Kuwait. They went back to Egypt, and they opened factories now. So a lot of immigrants, still the fascinating thing about immigrant, we still have that sense of duty towards our homeland that gave us the life, that to go back, I've done everything, I've achieved everything, it was a great life, now it's time to pay back and go back. And I'm sure, just like in Mexico, a lot of the dentists, a lot of professionals, a lot of the doctors, they come here, they get American educated, they're dual citizenship, and they go back to Mexico and open those Medi-Spa and health and wellness centers. Especially, I heard that north part of Mexico on the Texan border, it looks like California, it looks like LA. You create jobs, you elevate the standard of living and back into your community. And that's the beauty about immigration, especially if you go back, you pay that back to the community. But it's always been a very fascinating aspect of the immigrant mindset. Now,
you say that. My mom just finally purchased her own home in the Dominican Republic. And,
then she's going back.
Yeah, she wants to go back. She wants to retire there. And it's just that mindset that she, created for herself, where she always said it, I'm going to retire in my country. And she actually accomplished that for herself. And, that's very impressive. And I'm inspired by my mom for that, because she did it on her own.
She must have some kind of emotion about abandonment. That's a country that abandoned her, and that's why she had to come here, with the circumstances. But still, that's what's amazing about the immigrant mindset and the belief system, that no matter what the circumstances are, I want to die home on my land
Yeah.
among my family. And that's what I told Ehab. I told Ehab, I don't want to die here. I want to die in Egypt.
Yeah.
Around my family. I want to be on my deathbed around my family. There's nobody here. No offense to you guys. I love you all, but it's a little bit different. I want to be, my last memory is the smell of the food,
Yes.
the air saturated with the desert sand.
That's what brings you peace. That's what brings
Yes.
you tranquility. And
Yes.
go for it, Dr. Slava.
Good for her. When is she planning? Did she purchase a house already?
She's renovating it. She already put new flooring, new windows.
How old is mom?
I don't doubt my mom being there within the next year and a half.
Oh, good for her. She's done.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. How old is mom?
Mom is 66, 67. She turned
Wow,
67
good
this
for
year.
her. That's a huge achievement.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a huge achievement.
It's
So
even
she's
more
going to have the
challenging.
forever home right over there.
Yeah, for her forever home, she has land in the back of the house where she could grow her own crops, and that's what my mom always talked about. And her doing it is like, I'm very happy for her.
The dream come true. Good for her. Congratulations. That's amazing. All right. Let's talk about, if you would think of one person that inspired you to do what you're doing right now, who would that be? I know you talked about your brother.
Yes. But doing what I'm doing right now in life, I'm going to say my sister. I didn't talk about her enough, but I'm going to say my sister because she became a mother at 16 years old. She graduated high school, pregnant and all. She is a professional. She has she's going for her master's degree. She has her bachelor's degree in psychology, and she never gave up. She never gave up. And I'm sure that comes from my mom, but I inspire my sister because she has MS, and she's battling with it. She is doing great with it. But she never gives up, even on her worst days. And I take a lot from my sister. I do. She's shown me to be the woman who I am, because my mom hasn't always been there. She's had her alcohol, she hasn't always been there for me as a woman. But my sister always has. And that's why I appreciate her the most.
I would love to meet her.
Yes.
I would love to hear her story. Are you kidding?
Dr. Slava. You guys will connect right away.
Oh my God, I'll be honored to have her. But that'll be another episode for sure. The last question would be, what would your advice to a young Dominican woman that's thinking about leaving Dominican and coming to the United States? I know a lot of them don't want to leave, but just in case that some of them or one of them is listening to our podcast today, what would that advice be?
My advice would be, just don't change who you are. Always remember where you come from, because at the end of the day, you may experience a different life here, but the life that you have back home will always walk with you in this land, in the land of America. You will always carry yourself as if your mom or your dad were on your shoulder. And that's what I always say. The advice is, keep your head up, walk with your head up, and don't ever give up. That's how I say it.
Oh, that is beautiful. Beautifully put, Gisselle. I'm not surprised.
Thank you.
But it is amazing how our belief system constitutes the way we conduct ourselves, especially as immigrant. That's huge, and it's very important. And I agree with you 100%. My dad, he said, I don't care who you are. I don't care how much you're going to achieve. I don't care how rich you're going to be, how famous you're going to be, how old you are. Don't ever forget where you come from.
Right.
And that's humility.
Yes.
makes you conduct yourself as a humble human being walking through life.
Yes.
So that is absolutely beautiful. But unfortunately, we have reached to the end of our hour. And Gisselle, I hope you agree to come back again. I would love to meet your sister too.
Yes.
And we can definitely dig a little bit deeper into the psychology of things that makes us constantly, go. Like you said, failure is not an option. We cannot give up. And that's really one of the most common mindset of any immigrants, because we know how much we have sacrificed. We know how much what we have left behind. So we had to succeed, because you don't want one day to sit around and say, oh, is that what I sacrificed everything with? That wasn't worth it. You can't have that guilt on your conscience. But before we end this, please remember that these episodes are on all podcast platforms, including Apple and Spotify. And also they are uploaded on the Greenwood Dental Partner YouTube channel. So please like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell in order not to miss an episode. We are uploading these every single Wednesday, every single week. And please feel free to leave comments, questions, suggestions, and any topics or any stories that you would like to hear, because we cannot do this without you. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. And I hope to see you next time.